Let us start the second part of the lecture with an experiment. Please prepare pen and paper. Let me say that in general males are bad at arguing. Now, you can test on some subjects whether this rule is satisfied. For each subject you can have two pieces of information, whether it is a male or a female, whether it is good or bad in arguing. So for instance, if you choose to investigate a male person, you can see whether he is indeed bad at arguing or if instead he is good at arguing. Which ones of these four subjects you would decide to investigate further to test whether males are bad at arguing? Take 10 seconds and write the answer on your paper. Now, let us consider another rule. You know that, in general, minors must go to school. You have in front of you four subjects, and again they are described by two pieces of information: their age and whether they're going to school. Which one or ones of these four subjects you will decide to investigate further to test whether minors go to school? Take again 10 seconds and write the answer on your paper. What are the correct answers? Well, first of all, we need to understand in what respect we define correctness. We could define correctness alternatively according to the standard set by the majority of people or by some ideal standard, as for instance that given by logic. Let's consider as reference the logical ideal. The fact that males are bad at arguing can be rewritten as if you are male, then you're bad at arguing. Reading this conditional as a logic conditional, we can utilize its equivalent form, or contrapositive, which needs also to be true when the first is true. The contrapositive is obtained by negating all the terms and inversing the direction of the conditional. So the logical correct answer would be: we need to check if the male person is indeed bad at arguing, or if the person good at arguing is female. That will be the answers A and C of the first experiment. Similarly, we need to check the minor person as well as the person not at school, and those will be answers C and D of the second experiment. So, have you correctly answered in the first experiment? In the second one, if you did something wrong, do not worry. Since the 60s, starting with the work of Watson, several experiments of this type, called selection tasks, have been repeated. And those experiments showed the humans, in most contexts, miss the logically correct answers. But there is an exception. Humans reason almost perfectly in contexts in which the rule is a social norm. According to this result, I expect that if the question was correctly understood and you did not know about the experiment before, most of you have given correct answer for the second experiment, but not for the first one. How to explain this phenomenon? Several hypotheses have been made in the literature. Without any pretension of being exhaustive, I will provide one of the available explanations. According to the dual process theory of mind, human cognition consists of two systems. System 1 is fast, automatic, impulsive, and emotional. System 2 is slower, conscious, analytical, and rational. System 1 is the inferential system, and it is typically seen as made of domain-specific dedicated mechanism not having an explicit representation and functioning by means of attention, that is, tracking was it relevant to be followed. System 2 can be associated to argumentation. It concerns the representation of mental acts and states, rules, claims, and arguments. It provides the functions for producing and assessing arguments, and for this reason it improves the effectiveness and reliability of communicative interactions. Now let's reconsider the first experiment. Tracking for System 1 activates the concepts which are said in the foreground, male and bad at arguing. If you're a male, because you're emotionally more affected, you start tracking all aspects. The statement affects you, and therefore it is like you are actually exploring the possibilities to understand how you could attack such a statement. Perhaps your mind reminds you some males can be good at arguing, and that's for this reason you may want to test it. For this further investment, arguments are produced that goes in the correct logical direction. A similar exploration occurs plausibly in the case of social norms, as norm violation is a socially relevant consequence for anybody, independently of whether you are male or female. So the key message of this experience is that when interested parties are given voice, the outcome of argumentation goes towards being logically correct, as those parties will strive for their case, correcting possible simplifications, implicit assumptions, defaults, prejudice. To conclude, in this week we made clear that knowledge construction can be seen as a justifiable acceptance of a claim. There is some conclusion, the claim, which is accepted by the social participants, as it has been adequately justified. Knowledge construction is dialectical. The objective is winning, bringing the stronger argument and defeating the others. Participants take an interest in the outcome and may be witnesses as well. The argument that wins is a conclusion that typically justifies an action that brings real consequences. Those potential consequences are what motivate the parties to participate. Additionally, we need to take into account the typical limitations of knowledge construction. There is a short time frame for decision making. In most cases, we cannot remain arguing for years, even more because we have limited means to collect evidence about events that took place in the past. The more time passes, the more it becomes difficult to find evidence.